Now, nearly every gardener will know that feeling of trepidation when you plant a cutting and hope that it will take root.
Imagine if you'd been nurturing that cutting for 10 years in a bid to bring the plant back from the brink of extinction.
No pressure. That's exactly what one horticulturalist has done with a wildflower called Rosie saxifrage. We've been talking about her all morning. Our climate and science reporter, Georgina Stannard, went to a secret location in North Wales to meet the gardener.
This is Rosie saxifrage.
And there's none of these in the wild?
None.
So this little humble plant is going to be taken out and put in the mountains?
Exactly that. And I think it's absolutely blooming brilliant.
Plants, just like animals, can be wiped out. But Robbie Blackwell-Miles is leading a fight to save this native one. For 10 years, he's nurtured it in his specialist nursery in North Wales.
If you think about British biodiversity like a jigsaw puzzle, what I want to do is make sure that as many of those pieces are available as possible.
Saxifrages, Latin for stonebreaker, are found all over the UK. Plant hunters loved to collect them for their stunning flowers. But that beauty was the downfall of the Rosie saxifrage. Over-collection and habitat loss drove it to extinction. So how can a plant that disappeared come back?
In 1962, a man called Dick Roberts, while he was out on a school trip with his students, found this little plant on the side of a path. It's a very unusual situation. Here we've actually got descendants of that original Welsh material to be putting them back into the wild, you know. So these are cuttings of cuttings of cuttings of cuttings of those plants.
So the last time that anyone saw this plant was in the wild 60 years ago, somewhere up there, and we're going to go and try and see if we can find the spot.
The mountains of Eryri or Snowdonia were a favourite stomping ground for Victorian plant collectors. They picked as much saxifrage as they could lay their hands on. Then animal grazing pushed this plant to the edge. By the 1960s, there was almost nothing left.
It's here in Tullty or Devil's Kitchen where the last specimen of this plant was found in the wild, tumbling down the mountain and picked up by Dick Roberts. But in the 6 decades since then, the nature and the biodiversity that he would have looked out on has changed dramatically.
The UK is one of the most nature-depleted countries on Earth. If we look at atlases of different species groups over time, we see species after species kind of disappear off like a kind of like star being extinguished. But being able to talk about bringing a species back can really inspire people, ignite people's interest and make people think about what we've lost and what we could get back.
This plant, once so close to total extinction, is now in flower and finally ready to go home to the wilds of Comidwa. To give the saxifrage a fighting chance, we can't reveal its exact location.
In it goes.
And in it goes.
So this has been your dream for 10 years. How do you feel?
Absolutely over the moon. It's going to help us to better understand how we can go about ensuring it's in the wild forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a real high point of my career, actually.
Just a tiny tuft of white in a harsh environment to help turn the tide on Britain's nature crisis. Georgina Ranard, BBC News, Eryri.
What a moment. If you love them, set them free.
Success
and
story,
off she
isn't it?
goes, yeah.